Today I'm here with Philip King, Top Services Non-Exec Director, and joined with Simon Howell from our customers Tarmac. And recently, well, over the last 12 months, we've been doing quite a few webinars in partnership with the CICM, based around credit management and the construction industry. Well, first of all, thank you for the webinars that you've supported us with. We've done a few over the last 12 months. So we did a half-year review last year. We've covered fraud. We've covered retention, which is obviously big for our industry. So all very valuable subjects. Why is it important to you to sort of give us, to allow us your valuable time to do them? And why is it important to you? And what do you think the attendees of those webinars can take away with them by joining them?
Well, first and foremost, I do them because I enjoy them. I enjoy chatting to people that I know and have known for a long time. I enjoy chatting to people from across the industry who bring insights that I wouldn't get on a day-to-day basis. And I think for the participants who join them, it's exactly the same. They're getting insights they probably didn't know they wanted or needed, but it brings that to them.
And I think from my point of view, I'd echo what Philip has said there. I enjoy doing it as well. I think that there's another part to it as well, which is to provide some context and, if you like, colour to the everyday job that we do as credit professionals as well. It can become very formulaic. It can become very sort of routine, if you like, because we're all dominated by the cash cycle, the monthly cycle that we operate within. But it's trying to expand people's understanding, particularly, around our industry, both in terms of credit and also construction.
I think that's true, and I think although they're remote and although they're not, face to face, that means that you can, take an hour out of your day and participate, whereas it would be a whole day travelling and so on, and that's cost and time. But also, it always seems to me that even though they're remote, there is an affinity. And I always get, several LinkedIn requests from people after we've done a webinar, who've just, who then you communicate with and you have contact with, and that gives you a broader network of people that you can talk to. And I think it's around driving that community spirit within credit. And I've always said credit is a communication business, and it is. And I think that's why doing it and working with the CICM to do it brings the sort of that affinity of credit professionals in the same room, albeit remotely, and helps to foster that community-minded approach to our jobs. And I'm now semi-retired, but even when I was at the front line of credit, it's an incredibly lonely place sometimes. And just talking to other people and hearing what they're thinking and knowing that they're going through the same things you're going through. And I think the other thing about webinars is that they're timely. So, if you write an article for a magazine, it takes 6 weeks to get it, onto the page. Whereas webinars, we often refer to examples that happened last week because we're in the room and it's a week after the event, so we can talk about them. So it is very, very timely.
Yeah. And also I think, the whole community thing, and I love that about the webinars, it's what Top Service is about. So it fits with exactly what we're trying to achieve here. And you're right, credit management can be a lonely place. And I know that through my CICM membership and through the Top Service members and the network that I've built personally, I get so much from, and it's just another opportunity to be able to to share that. And we always have a great interaction in the questions and answers section, don't we, throughout. And it's really good for me when I start reading those questions. I think, God, I didn't cross my mind that was a major thing for people in this area, or so it also means that we can take that away and think, well, actually, do we need to do some more on this subject, because that area is obviously really important. And I think, I've sat on some webinars that you don't have that level of interaction. So I think it's great that we're able to have those. And of course, we have an agenda that we're working towards throughout the webinar, but because we've got that Q&A section and because it's always so active, it means that we can answer the questions because we have a great panel. answer the questions pretty much straight away, or if there isn't an answer we can give there and then, we go back pretty quickly, find it out. So I really love that part of it as well.
We did one recently, didn't we, where we got loads of questions all the way through. And the interesting thing is that we've got a panel that are giving their expertise and insights, but actually some of the questions weren't questions, they were tips or they were experiences. So they add to the framework of what we're trying to do. So it's bringing together, more people. And I think it's a slightly more protected environment. In a conference, people are loath to put their hand up and make a suggestion. When they can just stick it in under Q&A chat, then there's less vulnerability, so they feel more comfortable in sharing stuff.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that.
So the other thing that occurs to me is that very often you're too busy to watch a webinar, but if you register, get the link, you can go back and look at it. For those of us that are on them, we can go back and look and feel really cringy when we're watching ourselves. But for people that haven't been there, they can watch it in their own time, and that's a real benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you've got the time, if you've planned to join it, so sometimes things do come up, don't they? That's just life. So yeah, being able to, if you do need to miss it, being able to catch up is absolutely great. And you can store it to go back to it as well.
And watch it again for the bits you missed. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think from my point of view, it's also something, and Philip and I being where we are in terms of our careers would remember this, that there was a much greater face-to-face community spirit around the credit world. It's been dominated, particularly within construction, by the Competition Act and what you're allowed to say, what you're not allowed to say, and so on. So finding the right method, finding the right forum where you can actually have that community is incredibly valuable. And I think, reflecting back on the 6 years since the whole world changed for everybody in terms of using this sort of technology and so on, people are much more comfortable with it. And I'd also agree totally with what's been said in terms of the timeliness of this. If I think back to the world as it used to exist, where, in one particular business, when I worked for Hanson, there were 8 credit managers for that business. There's now 1. And going back to the loneliness of it, you are by yourself, and there's one person and trying to do the job that was previously done by 8, supported by technology. And we must never forget the human element of it, the mentoring, and I certainly, from my point of view, it's not a very specific technical thing. But it's just having people that that you can communicate with, as Philip talked about on LinkedIn and other ways, to be able to ask what may appear to be a stupid question. And in fact, it isn't. It's all part of learning as part of our profession.
Yeah.
I look back. I joined the ICM in 1980. And I can remember going to the London branch meetings, every quarter, and with a list of questions to ask people. I didn't have Google, I didn't have the internet, I didn't have webinars, any of this stuff. So I think we're in a much better place in terms of how we can share stuff now.
Absolutely, but you've got to put yourself out there, haven't you? And I mean, I've just recently done a video about why the CICM membership itself is important to me. And, I love being part of the CICM, and I love being part of the, wider credit management industry, because I think it's one of the most supportive industries that I've ever come across. There's so many people that are willing to give you their time, advice, any insights. But it's up to you to put yourself out there and put yourself in those positions and situation events. And as you said, that Q&A section, there is that little bit of less vulnerability to be able to, if you are a bit nervous, I truly believe that no question is a stupid question.
Sure.
But I understand that, as you say, it can be difficult, to stand up in a crowd and ask a question, particularly if you're new to the industry. And it's just another opportunity to be able to do that, isn't it? And, we come up with the agendas and the subjects that we're going to cover based on what our customers are telling, top service customers are telling me, and what they're facing. With construction, we have there's some seasonal subjects to cover that, they're always a bigger issue at certain times of the year. So we plan it around that. So we try and make sure that the subjects are relevant at that time. So You know, I do an update to our customers every month, and in that update I always ask, you know, tell me what are the pain points, because it's important that we're putting our agendas around that, because, you know, we want to support everybody as much as we can.
I think the other thing I'd probably add to that, Emma, is that I think there's almost something which is required from the more senior guys around, who've been around and seen a lot of different things. We're going through a crisis now, again caused by a war that's having wide-ranging economic impact, and that's going to continue. We won't see what the impact of that's going to be till probably later on in the year. Certainly as far as it's concerned with the UK, you're going to get certain short-term impacts. All of that is going to impact on our communication, and it's going to impact on the construction industry and how we then treat our customers. It's another crisis, and when that, it can be quite a concerning thing, particularly when you say that you're in a lonely position, and just knowing where to turn and having that, if you like, the arm around you going, look, you can tap into these elements either through the CICM or through the community that you've built with Top Service is a really powerful thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I'll end this conversation on a big thank you to both of you from the bottom of my heart for all the time and the effort, and you know, your guys' time is valuable, so I really appreciate the support on these webinars and everything else that you do for us. And I know our customers, I know the CICM community, and also the team here at Top Service really appreciate it, because without you we wouldn't be able to do them. So a big thank you from us.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
So if you're interested in keeping up to date with Top Service webinars done with the CICM, if you're a CICM member, then have a look at their calendar. Keep an eye on the CICM LinkedIn and Top Service LinkedIn page, because the updates are always on there. And as a Top Service member, you'll receive notification of what webinars we're covering when through our monthly bulletins.